Transitioning from the K-12 public school setting to an online human development company was honestly the best decision I've made career-wise. Hey everyone, my name's Aaron and I'm here to talk about my transition going from the K-12 public setting to an online human development company. I must say I am really enjoying my time with this company, and that's a lot coming from me. But like everything good, there's always a trade-off. There are pros and cons to everything. So I'm here to talk about all of the good things and all of the not so good things. Now don't be alarmed for those of you who do want to change your career field. It's very much possible, and I encourage you to do so honestly. My story may relate to a lot of yours, so I hope that I give you some insight on how to go about switching your career field and just ease your mind on any anxiety you may have during the process. So throughout this video, I will be chunking all of this information into three main categories. One being the learning curve, two, work-life balance, and three, daily tasks. All right, number one, the learning curve. Where do I begin? I'll start with this one word, patience, or rather patience is key. With every single job you ever encounter, you will never escape the learning curve. And this is not a bad thing. It's just how it is. So acknowledge it, don't overthink it, and keep moving forward. It'll get better. A lot of you already know what this is, and some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. So let me break it down. When you're learning something new, it is a very slow process. A beautiful one, but very slow. Once you start picking on some of those patterns, your productivity increases, the quality improves, the amount of time it takes to complete those tasks decreases, and eventually you're realizing that you're no longer learning, well, at least not as much. You can always improve, but for the most part, you're just executing, and it's great. So back to my transition. I'm currently at the bottom of this curve, and it can be stressful at times. I want to make sure that I'm performing well, but it is hard to think that it's hard to believe that you're doing well when you're learning something new almost every day, if not every week. And I personally like learning things, that's just me, but there are times when I am stressed out and when I feel overwhelmed. So I have to constantly let myself know this is normal. I need to calm down. My boss is not going to hate me. So let me reiterate, this is very normal, so I don't want you overthinking something that doesn't have to be overthought. I was an elementary music teacher before I later transitioned to high school, and the system moved us around from school to school for whatever reason, and it was very irritating. I have no idea why they did that. But anyway, going from one school to another the next year has its own learning curve, believe it or not. Yes, you know your craft, you know the subject you're teaching, but you are having to learn how to talk to new people. People being your coworkers, every person is different. The students, one school does not operate the exact same way, so every little thing that particular school handles will be part of that overall learning curve that you experience. So if you can do that, you can definitely transition to a new position altogether, if that's what you feel called to do. All right, on to work-life balance. Thinking back to my old position, when you're at a school all day, you can't just up and leave. You can't just go to the bathroom whenever you please. It may sound fickle, but if I'm talking to mainly teachers in this video, I don't even have to further explain myself. But I will anyway. It shouldn't be a luxury to use the restroom and to grab a snack anytime throughout the day without having to plan it. As a teacher specifically, you can't just eat in your class if you tell your students not to eat in class. You can't just leave class and use the restroom if you don't like when students do it. Now, of course, there are exceptions. Some teachers don't care. There's a hall pass. If you have to go to the bathroom, just grab it and go. But other teachers want to know where you're going, why you're just standing up in the middle of class and walking out the door. Depending on what school you're at and what the atmosphere is like, that's not something that should be allowed. And that's very messed up within itself because it should be allowed. We should be able to trust students to walk out and use the bathroom or, grab a snack in the middle of class. School is like a prison. I've heard this many times, and the system needs reshaping and restructuring. Apologies for the digression, but you get the idea. Work-life balance is very important. I'd like to think we've all been on Glassdoor, and we've seen how the 5-star rating for work-life balance is usually a 3 out of 5 at most, well, at least in my experience. And that's not good. The good news is, working for Oclef is honestly a 5 out of 5-star rating when it comes to work-life balance. Flex time, PTO or paid time off, and the option for remote work are why this company is worth 5 stars. Now, with all of this being said, these 3 things are great, but they need glue to hold them together. That is honestly the most important part. And that glue is a community that is built on trust, reliability, the willingness to work as a team, the laughter, the passion for what you do. All of these things go into a strong community that will ultimately take companies to the next level of success. I say next level because most people see success as a lot of money and a stable career. Yes, in a sense, those things are part of it, but it's also your mental state. It's not just the bigger picture that you should be worried about. Little things always create the bigger picture. Think of a puzzle. If you're missing one piece, the quality is not there. And who wants to work for a company where the quality is lacking? Now, the 2 examples that I touched on earlier, the snacks and the bathroom breaks, are very small, but still important. Think of that puzzle analogy that I gave earlier. Some other examples are when you're in a facility, you can't just go home to walk your dogs. You also can't just call off work to pick up a sick child from school. It's little things like these that make people want a better work-life balance. And they're valid answers, they're valid reasons. Now, don't get me wrong, there are many people who can't get away from their computer even though they work from home. Now, that's where the flex time and the PTO come in. It's not just working from home that solves the entire problem. You'll need all of those characteristics that I mentioned earlier. Now, there may be more, and if there are, let me know. All right, let's move on to number 3. Daily tasks are very important to me, and they should be for everyone, honestly, because it's what you do every day. As a K-12 teacher, I wore many hats, as I do here at Oclef as well. The only difference is there is a lot more quality and meaningfulness to what I do here at Oclef than I did as a K-12 teacher. Not to say that K-12 teachers don't have meaningful work at all. It just wasn't as meaningful to me. And I know a lot of others can relate. On YouTube, there's been a trend for why I quit teaching videos. And it's sad, but I believe this would have happened regardless of COVID. COVID sped up the process. And because of it, I was able to stick out or hold out longer as a teacher because I was online. Being in the classroom took a lot out of me, as it does for a lot of teachers. You do so much, and it yields little to no result. For example, you have so many lesson plans where at least 20% of them just fall to the ground because the kids just don't appreciate the time you're putting in to instruct them because they don't want to be in school in the first place. And that leads to 2 things. One being, you have to create the absolute best lesson plan to keep the kids entertained. And then 2, you also have to deal with a lot of disciplining in your classroom and even out of the classroom, honestly. And that's just not needed. I'm not your dad, and you know better. So to sum all of this up, the common denominator that I saw with why teachers quit, including why I quit, was the fact that we were given so much work on top of what we were initially asked to do. But I'll go ahead and take it further and just say that I felt it wasn't a good use of my time. And I hesitate to take it even as far as this, but there was just a lot of wasted effort. Hearing teachers and even myself say the same things over and over to students just to have them, laugh in your face or even ignore you completely, but then get mad when you want to call or email their parents was just not what I signed up for. So to end all of the K-12 talk and move on to what I do at Oclef, I'm going to pack it all in a box, slap a label on it, and ship it off to the listeners who really want to initiate change. I'll end this portion of the video by saying this. Consequences in schools, both good and bad, need to be altered, Good grades and school suspensions are just not enough. Incentives for students need to be acknowledged. So reach out and let's have a chat. All right, so with what I do at Oclef, I can't just sum up like I did with K-12. And even with K-12, you shouldn't just say you're a teacher. But anyway, at Oclef, my title is S1 Professor. I teach piano, but I do so much more as well. I compose, arrange, and produce music. I conduct research for product development. I complete administrative tasks. I market to other companies, and the list goes on and on. Oclef started off as a software company where the traditional and failing model of piano instruction was updated. We now consider ourselves a software and education company. But like my employer, I like to say we are a human development company because we're a jack of all trades who wants to essentially improve the well-being of others. And for me, it doesn't get better than this. Because yes, I'm improving the well-being of others, but I'm also improving my own well-being. I also dive into projects that I am passionate about. A part of working at Oclef deals with developing ways you believe would benefit others. And since I am a musician at heart, I revolve my projects around music. But I have also been a K-12 teacher, and I feel like my project, I still haven't found out what that is just yet, but I feel it may be leaning toward the improvement of the educational system. Try this. Close your eyes for 30 seconds or a minute. Even pause this video if you have to. Think about what you can honestly see yourself doing every day for 10 years. You may be peeking and thinking, why would I want to do that? Well, because you should be investing in yourself first. Only then will you have a clearer path for the best career that suits your needs. So really sit down and think to yourself, what can I honestly see myself doing every single day for 10 years or even 5? Are you ready? All right. The answers you came up with are closely related to where your passions lie. No matter how far-fetched your answers may seem, you'll be surprised by what careers are out there that relate to them. If you said something like, I like eating food, it may sound crazy, but think back to Anthony Bourdain and even Guy Fieri. They were chefs who essentially traveled the world tasting foods from different cultures, and they broadcast it on TV. It's very possible to have a career involving your passions. All right, so this concludes the transition talk. I hope it gave you all some insight on what to look for and think about within your career life. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.